Hey, fight fans. Welcome to Caveman's Corner with your host, Captain Caveman! Jeff Denz.
All right, fight fans, welcome back. Another Caveman's Corner. We're here for episode 4. Today we have one of my longtime friends, Dr. Lee Michael Krol. Dr. Krols is a PT, physical therapist, a personal trainer, takes care of me, fixes all the stuff I break. Like today, the giant football player slammed me on my head. He's going to give me some adjustments after we get done here, hopefully. How you doing today, Lee?
Doing all right. We got here on Caveman time, but since it's on a podcast, nobody has to know.
You just told him, man. That's not how it works. Now I have to edit all this out. It's
edit
so hard to edit.
I wanted to make your life a little harder.
Post-production.
Post-production.
No, I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming, man. I brought you in. I want to talk about, I'm really seriously considering making a return back to ring if you can get me back in the cage. So I want us to just forget all that hippo stuff, and let's talk about me and my recovery process. I tore my biceps and had some surgery on my ankle. So why don't you tell us about the process and where I'm at, maybe how you diagnose athletes even, because that's a pretty interesting process as well.
All right, very good. First thing I want to say, though, is your podcast has been doing great. I've listened to all 3 episodes straight up, and Kristen did a fantastic job. So did Eric Herbert, and I hope I do as nice of a job as they did. I will do my best, but definitely a shout-out to them. So if you haven't listened to those 2 podcasts, go back in time, pause this one right now, go back and listen to them because they did a really great job. So as far as you, I knew what your history was because we've known each other since we were 12, 13. We've known each other longer than that, but we didn't really start hanging out until then. So I knew your history pretty well.
Perfect health, no problem.
Perfect health, no problem, other than this long rap list of orthopedic injuries prior to. Maybe some neuro injuries too. But I knew you were coming off the surgery, so the left biceps was torn and it was repaired, and I treated you like I would treat pretty much everybody else. That's one of the nice things about the way that I run my business is nobody gets the VIP treatment, which I'll talk about later with the clinic model. But I look at you top to bottom, man, just like I looked at everybody else. If I really focus on that one area that's injured, I'm never going to make you better because it doesn't just blow up spontaneously. I mean, even in you, it doesn't just blow up spontaneously. I mean, and if it was going to blow up on anybody, it'd be you.
What? Because I'm awesome, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You just have so much energy. But no, when you throw a hook and your biceps blows out, it's not just because there was a bad hook or someone moved funny. There's all sorts of things happening. You're twisting your ankle. You're getting stability from the ground. You're moving your core. You're moving your hips, your thoracic spine position, your lumbar spine position. All of that matters. And if all those pieces of the chain aren't working right, eventually something's going to go in the process. So that time it was your biceps tendon. Another time it could be your rotator cuff. Another time it could be your lower back. You could have a herniation or exacerbate an existing herniation. It could be anything, man. You could even roll your ankle doing it one time, pushing it off the ground. So I have to look at you and everybody else top to bottom. And if I don't fix the big problems that are underlying, I'm never going to make you better. You're going to heal on your own. If you never came and saw me again, or if you never saw me in the first place, the surgeon's job would have done just fine. The tissue would have healed. You would have had some function of your arm, and you probably would have been at a much higher risk of re-injury going forward.
All right, I want to. Dr. Krol actually brought me in to be a science experiment. He does these seminars at UB at times for new PT students, and he brought me in, and he gave He had me give the laundry list of my injuries, and most of the kids kind of looked at me like, "How do you even treat this guy?" Can you talk about dealing with athletes with a bunch of injuries and how we're going to go about getting me back in the cage?
Well, the thing with you look at a laundry list of injuries, and what happens is people, and even people in my profession, I've done it, physicians do it, chiropractors do it. Unfortunately, we almost make assumptions, and the patients make assumptions all the time. And I have people tell me all the time, yeah, I have arthritis. Okay, you don't just have arthritis in your neck. One of the things I tell them is they're like, yeah, I have arthritis in my left knee. I said, well, how old's your right knee? Well, what do you mean? Well, it's the same age as the left knee. They're both arthritic. So why is one painful, one isn't? You can't make any assumptions based on a laundry list of how someone's going to function and how someone's going to move. One of the things I told the students with you was, This guy's a 38 at the time, 38-year-old athlete.
Hey, I'm still young. I've got younger, 37.
Hey, we can't beat the clock, my man. But I said, he's a 38-year-old athlete. How do you think he's going to move? And everybody said the same thing, really well, right? And then I had you do a deep squat, and it was a tire fire on South Campus, right?
Tire fire. It wasn't that bad.
So someone could come in and say, hey, I've had, meniscal damage to my knee. So you talked to your guest last week. Eric Herbert had the extension lock in his knee, had the cartilage rolled up into his joint. He probably moves better than most people that we know, right? He had the extension lock. You get someone else who's sedentary, maybe even 15 years younger, and just moves horribly. So you can't make any assumptions on how someone's going to move. So you can't say, well, they have this laundry list of injuries. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do this. I mean, with certain things, yes, you can, like a Chiari malformation in the neck, or an existing fracture, or they're missing an ACL. They just never had it reconstructed. So you can make some assumptions to a point, but you still have to test them. So you give me this whole laundry list of symptoms. I still had you do a deep squat.
Right.
I have 75-year-old women do deep squats. I don't care. I don't care how old you are. We're going to do it. I mean, you have to be able to get up and down from the toilet, right?
Can you talk about the process that you put me through, the physical evaluation, and talk about how they the testing? Because you told me how they do it on the professional athletes as well, and how I did on it, and how most average professional athletes do on it, and then what we're going to do to fix it.
So the system I use right now, which I haven't put you through because you're still a patient per se, you're still in the medical model, is the functional movement screen. And it's this 7-step process for assessing risk. So it doesn't mean that you're going to get injured doing this. It just means that if you continue to load or practice in this pattern, whether it's feet symmetrical, one foot in front of the other, on one foot, core movements, if you load it at this pattern, your risk of injury goes up. So several universities have taken this, Division I, Division III universities, and put it to their athletes. And what they found in some of the universities was people who scored poorly or had risk factors on this exam were 4 times more likely to get injured throughout the season. It doesn't tell you if you're going to the Hall of Fame. It doesn't tell you if you're a star player. All it tells you is, here's your risk of injury if you continue to train and continue to load this pattern, or what's going to happen when you get to fatigue. So when you get to fatigue, you don't move as well, right? You use old practice patterns, you use bad movement patterns, and you just don't train correctly, you don't move the right way, and your risk of injury goes up. So the way you did on that, in certain areas you did fine. But other areas, like your deep squat, so your 2-legged pattern, not so good. So one of the reasons you probably have a lot of difficulty loading your squat pattern, why your squat doesn't get better at the gym, is because it's poor. Just at a movement standard. That was just 1 rep at body weight. So it has nothing to do with capacity. It has nothing to do with load. The seminar I'm taking in Chicago is addressing capacity and load, and we're going to talk more about that. That was just released by Functional Movement Systems. It's called the Fundamental Capacity Screen.
Can you just break it down, because it's a pretty interesting process. He has you turn your neck, just break down the couple techniques, and then give him a report how bad I failed at them.
So that one in particular was the medical model, the SFMA, the Selective Functional Movement Assessment. That one's a little bit different. That's the one I put you in because you're a patient. So with that model, I'm looking at 10 basic movement patterns from top to bottom. How you turn your head, how your arms move, combined movements, reaching behind your back, over and under, how your spine moves as a unit, how well you stand on one leg, and how well you squat. And really what it does is it sets my baseline for me, okay? If I don't set a baseline for how you move, I can't ever say I made you better. I can't say, I improved your squat. I don't know. I never tested your squat. I never looked at it. So that's kind of what I do. And what it does is it shows me, okay, I know he's got a biceps rupture that was repaired. I know this. But how's the rest of them moving? So what did I find? Your multi-segmental rotation, where you turn from one side to the other.
Can we slow down a little bit and pretend I don't have a doctorate?
Fair enough.
Go back to English so I can understand, please.
So
maybe
when I say
high school level,
multi-segmental, I mean all of your vertebrae moving one after the other. So how well do you turn, leaving your feet in one spot? How do you turn to look behind you? And what that gives me is a look at how your thoracic spine, which is anywhere where your ribs attach, your lumbar spine, which is your lower back, how do your hips move? How do your ankles move? How do your knees move? And we found in one direction, you're pretty poor at it. So what does that matter to you? You're here for your biceps tendon, right? But again, you push off the ground when you throw your punches. You push off the ground when you shoot. You push off the ground in a whole bunch of different ways when you're on the mat in jiu-jitsu, right? So if you don't move your hips well, you're automatically limited into how much power and force you can produce and how well you can perform at any type of sport. So if I don't clean those things up, your bicep's going to be at risk of injury, or this other laundry list of injuries that you have, you're at risk for re-injuring those as well. So even though if you have a pin in your ankle, which you used to have, I'm not going to change your ankle mobility with the pin in there. But at least I know
I have
it's
the
there.
pin at home now.
You have
actually.
the pin at home.
Yeah.
So it's just, you use those pre-existing conditions to sort of check, okay, what are we looking at here? But then you still check their movement regardless of it. And then you see if those things line up. Okay, they have a fusion in their lower back. I wouldn't expect them to flex forward very well. But at least you know it's there. But you can't make the assumption they're not going to move well.
Right. And how well do I move? Out of 1 to 10 scale, 1 being the worst,
Oh, man.
10 being the best.
This is the question I hate asking patients. But you don't move badly.
He never tells me the answer for real. He's like, yeah, that's not good. Just keep going.
No, you don't move badly. I mean, it's not like you're a complete gas fire. It's not like you're using a rollator to get around yet. But no, I mean, you move well. It's just certain patterns you don't. Your squat patterns are not good. Your balance is fine. I mean, your neck, it improves rapidly when I work on it. So it's not inherently poor. It's just shut down for whatever reason.
Can you talk about how athletes, we develop movement patterns that are sport specific and how it actually affects our body? Like for me, jiu-jitsu, my hips are always going forward. For wrestling, my weight's always forward. I'm always on my toes. I'm hunched over and actually a poor squatting position. Football players are always in different positions where they're getting banged around in the knee area. Soccer players are running. Marathoners run, hundreds of miles a month. Can you just talk about how those injuries affect our bodies and what we should be doing to take care of ourselves as athletes?
So one of the things I look at with that is I almost look at it like a pyramid, okay? So at the very bottom of the pyramid is your health and fitness. I mean, if you were sitting here right now, your face is red as a tomato, you're sweating all over the place, your blood pressure is way through the roof.
You can stop talking about Chris. It's okay.
Yeah, I didn't even do anything.
And that's the problem.
This guy's good.
But
He's a doctor.
If that's not right, then we can't expect to build on top of that, right? Then after that's your basic movement, the stuff I was just talking about. If you don't move well, you're probably going to have a hard time. And if you can't move your arm at all, I'm not going to expect you to be able to throw a fastball very well, okay? What happens with a lot of athletes is they bypass the bottom 3 parts of that pyramid. They bypass the health, they bypass the movement quality, they bypass the straight athleticism, and they go right into skill. So if I just get better at this, if I can just learn that sweep, if I can just learn that different choke, if I can just learn a different way to throw that pitch, if I can learn my slider, learn my breaking ball, then I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. That'll give me my edge. And unfortunately, you start to train all skill and none of the supporting parts to it, and you eventually run into your ceiling a lot faster than you would if you trained your athleticism first.
And you're more at risk for injury.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to be playing, you're not going to be training, you're not going to be competing if you're hurt. I mean, hurt to the point where you absolutely cannot do it. I mean, everybody trains hurt to some degree.
I want to, we talked about this a little bit before too, about like proper training methods of athletes, because a lot of times we train when we're hurt. We train the same skills. Like for MMA, for example, it never stops because we need to learn Muay Thai, we need to learn Jiu-Jitsu, we need to learn wrestling, we need to put it all together, we need to do MMA. So as we're coming up, we need to be training year-round. We talked about how off seasons are together. Me and you, how off seasons are good for other sports. But even today, with the sports going on, they're going year-round. Like my son right now just signed up for travel soccer. He'll be playing travel soccer for 9 months out of the year. They play all winter and then they play all summer and then they take a couple week breaks and they play again. Can you talk about your philosophy on wrestling?
So I really think, there's 2 different realms, but when we talked a few weeks ago about it, for the MMA fighter, so you're up and coming, you're amateur, I mean, you got to take this fight in Pittsburgh, you got to take this fight at the Res. I mean, because if you're not getting exposure, you're not getting looked at. So you have an end goal. And your training paradigm is going towards that. Your coach is saying, look, you have to be competing. Your Thai sucks. You're gonna lose a fight because of it. So you have to train. You have to work on that skill. That's understandable. Those people, if they can't take a true off season of a 2-month break, I get it. At least you have a goal for it. But the people that I really worry about with the off season are the people like the runners. People that are running 40, 30, 40, 50 miles a week. For what? You're not getting paid for it. What are you doing this for?
Vance Rogers, listen up.
Well, I love to run. And herein lies the problem, and this is something I really am a big believer in. Exercise is truly a pharmaceutical. I absolutely believe that 100%. The way I prescribe exercise is a pharmaceutical. You can dose it up, you can dose it down, you can change the dose however you want, or you may find that exercise isn't good for you. Just like a medication. So if you take ibuprofen, it's not great for people with stomach ulcers, right? So the physician may give you something else. So it's the same thing with exercise. It also has the quality of addiction. So people who run, they run because they define themselves as runners and they're addicted to it. So convincing them to take an off season to do something other than running for 2 months, stand-up paddleboarding, yoga, Olympic weightlifting, martial arts, anything completely different than running, is very difficult to do. So, the overtraining, and again, that leads to the skill comment I had before, where people keep training one skill, and that skill is going to inherently bring about imbalances, right? So, why do most people develop a cauliflower ear more on one side versus the other, right? Because they shoot to the same side all the time. So they predominantly right leg kickers. I might have got that wrong, who knows? But they're predominantly right leg kickers. They're left-handed jabbers, they're whatever. Or they push off with the same side, or they run on a track which always turns to the left. So they develop asymmetries based on their skill. And that training paradigm, you should break that down and address the problems that skill is going to have. Okay?
Speaking about symmetry, I actually got a great article. I sent it to you in an email. I don't know if you got it or not.
It went into my spam folder.
Of course it went into my spam. It's coming from me. So he's like Xing it out. Anything from Caveman, just it could be donkey porn. We just got to cut it out. You never know what's coming.
You never know what's coming with Caveman. Never.
Horseblow, AVI.
That's actually a true story, Chris.
So, anyways,
completely derailed right
Yeah.
now. Completely
oh,
derailed.
train wreck.
God.
All right, so we developed these imbalances on he was really specifically talking about bodybuilders, how they'll do a lot of pulling exercise and not a lot of pushing exercise, or a lot of pushing exercise, not a lot of pulling exercises. So I know almost 90% of the people that are going to listen to this podcast lift weights. Can you give like a sort of more of a balanced way of lifting and what we should be doing and be training to keep these imbalances from happening in the gym at least?
So one of the big problems with fitness in the United States right now is that it has been defined by the bodybuilding model. I mean, people all the time, it's leg day, it's chest day, it's arm day, it's back day, it's whatever. And that it comes from the bodybuilding model, which if you're bodybuilding, it's great. Go ahead, have at it. Do your leg day, do your arm day, do 50 different types of curls. I don't care. But for the average person, what actually you find is that these movements tend not to be very functional. I mean, whoever just curls their arm to do anything? You don't. If you're going to pick something up, it's a full body movement. If you're going to push something, you're not pressing your back against the wall and just pressing out with your hands. It's a full body movement, pushing from your legs, going through your core. So if you want to use the bodybuilding model to improve your appearance, that's great, but balance it out with something else. Okay? Get in touch with a trainer, get in touch with a physical therapist who can really look at you and assess, hey, this bodybuilding stuff that you're doing, this is really jacking up your movement patterns. And the reason you're not able to break these plateaus is because you move like shit. And you want someone to really tell you that.
Yeah.
You don't, I mean, when I see patients and clients, I'm not their friend. I don't care if they pass or fail. It's not about that. I just want them to get better. And if here's your deficiency, I don't care if you're 85 years old or if you're 15. I'm going to tell you, okay, here's where your problem is, and we're going to fix it. And if I think that some of the activities you're doing are contributing to that problem, I'm going to tell you. So, yeah, it's a big problem with people just exercising to exercise. I think exercise is a supplement to activity. It's like just today. After I had my morning patients, I had about a 3-hour block before I took my little nap because I'm old to come here tonight. But I could have went downstairs and did legs in the basement, but instead I went to the gorge and hiked the gorge instead. Did a little running, did a little rock climbing. So in the process of that, I did a lot of step downs, 6, 8, 12 inches off of rocks, step ups, lunges, ankle mobility on rocks, climbing, running, jumping, not for sets and reps, but just because, you know what, the leaves are changing, the gorge is an awesome place to be when the water's raging, and that's your activity. Now, if I found that, man, I can't climb these rocks because I don't have the strength, that's where you use your exercise to say, hey, I want to make this activity better. So your activity should be defining what your exercise does. So if you're doing an exercise, going back full circle now, if you're an athlete like yourself or anybody else who does any type of sport, what can I do to make my sport better? That's the type of thing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Lee, I was going to ask you what you would recommend as far as exercise. You have a gym in the basement. You're an average dude like myself that's, trying to get in better shape. I was in the past. I haven't been for the last 7-8 years. I'm, not proud to admit it, but
round's a shape.
I'm not ashamed to admit it. Round is a shape, absolutely.
Fitness.
I want to
get
get
in my mouth.
because I grew up and when I was in great shape, I admitted that I was using the bodybuilding model. So I picked up Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, and I would do 20 sets for shoulders. I would do 20 sets for biceps, 20 sets for triceps. And, you couple it with, another body part that day. So today's push day, tomorrow's pull day, and then you do leg day, leg and shoulders, right? Mm-hmm. But what would you recommend to people out there that aren't MMA fighters, that aren't bodybuilders, that are just looking for overall fitness, drop some weight, and probably make themselves look and feel better, in the end?
Well, the first thing I would say is, if you're going to do nothing versus the bodybuilding model, do the bodybuilding model. I'd rather have you do something than nothing. I will always preface that. So it doesn't matter if you go full in cult CrossFit type stuff, or if you're doing crazy yoga stuff where you're blowing out your shoulders. I'd rather have you doing something than nothing. Mm-hmm. Okay? But I would say let's start it at an even easier level. Find an activity you like to do. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you're like, man, I want to get in better shape. Do you think my heart rate was elevated when I hiked the gorge today?
Absolutely.
Do you think my legs were a little sore when I came up and down the stairs at Devil's Hole?
I wouldn't have even made it down there.
Right. So I was getting exercise. I was getting the benefits of exercise, but I was having fun doing it. Mm-hmm. So instead of saying, man, remember that time we went to the gym on a Tuesday? It was fucking awesome, man. It was awesome. Or how about, man, I got these great pictures from the gorge that I did. I did my hike. So find activities you like to do. Cross-country skiing, snowboarding, downhill skiing, stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking, anything you want. Running, cycling. Find your activities and then use the exercise to build around it.
Sure.
But
great advice.
Always base it off your activities. I tell people all the time, whether they're going to hire me, somebody else, or spend a lot of money on a gym membership, take a 30-minute walk every day. And they're like, well, that's really not that hard. I know it's not that hard, but it's your time commitment. Mm-hmm. If you can't dedicate 30 minutes a day to just taking a walk, you're never going to the gym. I mean, honestly, if you just can't even dedicate the time. Yeah. If you can't take your dog for a walk, if you can't go for a nice brisk walk with your kids and stop at a playground and do the monkey bars and see, wow, shit, I can only do 3 monkey bars at a time before I have to drop down. Oh, man, I just bumped into
No worries.
I'll edit that out.
That's great advice.
No, editing's too hard.
Editing's too hard. I'm not editing out the microphone.
I spent 6 hours editing out like the 2 things from Herbert's interview. It was tough.
Took me 2 weeks to do the first one we did.
I know, but that was like 6 hours long.
You're getting more efficient over time.
Yeah. We're getting more efficient. That's right.
But the thing is, build it off your activity first. Find some activity that you like, and then try to build your exercise around it. But if you can't do that, then start with something. Yeah. Yoga, bodybuilding, CrossFit, doesn't matter. Start with something.
Just move.
Get off your ass and move around.
Yep.
I got a bunch of questions piling up in my head right now, so I'm gonna start shooting them off. We kind of touched on it, but we just skipped right over it. So, my son's playing soccer 10 months a year. Or we got guys going to pitching camp, and they're pitching, 8 months a year, 9 months a year. Instead of playing, in the old days, we used to, when I was growing up, we used to just go out and play football in the yard, or we go play basketball a different day, or hang out, play video games a different day, Vandal Hearts, whatever we got to do.
Absolutely.
And
great stories.
Yeah, great stories. And then now kids today, they're pretty sports specific, and I'm gonna say probably 98% or whatever of that kids don't actually end up being pros athletes. Chris, you actually know that stat? That's probably something.
Actually, it's funny that you mention that, because I was just looking at it the other day, and the stats are overwhelming as far as how many kids start in specific sports, move their way through high school, into college, and then into the pros is almost ridiculous. I mean, we're looking at 1 to 2% of all athletes that play up to the college level may make it into a professional level. So to give you an idea, and I know this stat off the top of my head, there are just over 17,000 college football players each year in the United States. 256 or 258 of them make the pros. It's like 17,500 players. 258 of them make the pros. So think about that number when you're talking about who is going to move on to the next level.
Right, and then we're looking at even a smaller level because we're talking about 8, 9, 10-year-old kids. So as a parent, how should we push our kids to play sports? Should we be having the off season? Should we push them for that?
I'm going to answer it with an anecdote. I just had a patient yesterday, and her son came in, bilateral leg pain. So in English, that means both legs.
All right.
With activity.
What does that mean? He can still do activity? I'm not even joking.
Well, no, anytime he would play sports or anytime he would go into gym,
right,
he would have leg pain, and he would complain to his mom. And honestly, if a kid's complaining to his mom, 12-year-old boy is starting to get more independent, there's probably something going on. So honestly, 5 or 6 sessions, and he was pain-free with activity and ready to go. So I'm talking to his mom, who, like most parents, looks out for their son, wants to know what's best for him. And she's like, well, should I have him keep doing the exercises? He doesn't really like to do them. I said, no, he's done with the exercise. Exercise was a supplement to take care of a problem. She's like, well, what should I have him do? What should I tell his coaches? I said, no, have him go play. Like play sports? No, go to the playground. Play. Explore your environment. There's a certain cutoff point where we start getting our kids into sports. Like, oh my God, they have to be in softball. They have to be in baseball. They have to be in hockey. They have to be in football. And we don't do that when they're 18 months old. We just let them explore their environment. They just play with things. And we buy them toys, not because, okay, they're going to do 15 minutes with this toy, 15 minutes with that toy. It's just, no, they're going to play with things. They're going to learn how to climb. They're going to fall down a step or two. They're going to climb up the couch and tumble down, and you're going to go, oh my God, and then they're going to laugh. The kids are going to laugh. They're exploring their environment. That doesn't change all the way through adulthood. So I tell people all the time, she's really worried about her kid because he runs sloppy. I'm like, he's 5'8", he's 12 years old, he's got a size 12 shoe, he's going to grow into it. There's nothing where I have to get his glute medius firing a little bit more on the right because he's got a genu valgum here. None of that stuff matters. Go play.
That's good because we don't know what it means. Keep going into your doctorate.
But that's the thing. We tend to look at these things way too clinically. We tend to break kids down who are still growing and still adapting and still evolving, instead of just saying, hey, go to the playground and play. Go play tag with your friends. Go get into some random wrestling scuffle on the playground with some kid you don't like.
That's what you should be doing.
Go instead of sliding down the slide, go run up it like we all did when
Don't
we were
do that.
kids.
That's not allowed. The parent in me says no.
Slide down.
OCD.
Slide down the pole. Climb up the pole. Do all sorts of things. That's the type of thing you should be doing, because at that point, how much great shoulder work is a kid getting by climbing monkey bars? Better than any reps you can give him. That's going to help him throw a baseball far more than putting him into some performance camp and saying, okay, we're going to make sure we do these push-ups or we're going to do these weightlifting things. He's going to get far more results from doing monkey bars and just exploring his environment than he'll ever get in a performance camp.
You talked about something that really piqued something that really aggravates me about the medical profession. I tell this to my wife all the time. I hate the doctors. They never listen to you. They don't really do anything. You sit in a waiting room for 50 minutes. They see you for 2 seconds and you're out. Sometimes with me, it's a little bit different because I go in there, I sit for all that time, then I come in and they bring in all the PAs to look like, oh, I've never seen that before, because they come in and they look at my injuries, especially when I broke my leg and then my foot was on backwards and all my bones were all over. And they're like, I can't believe they misdiagnosed you, because what happened was I broke both the bones in my leg and my foot was on backwards. So what I did, I just turned it around and I drove myself to the hospital. And I'm like, I think I broke my leg. And they scanned it, and they're like, oh, it's just a hairline fracture, so you can even walk on it. So, I was walking, I was like, man, this fucking hurts, dude, So I go home, and I had wrestling tournament the next day, jiu-jitsu tournament the next day. And I'm like, man, I can't even walk with this. So I just tape up my foot, and I get in the car, and I start driving there. And I'm like, man, something's not right. So I end up driving to, where did I go? I went to ECMC that time, and I went in there, and they're like, you need emergency surgery. And 16 hours later, I was having my ankle put back together. So Then I go to PT, and they're like, here, ride the bike. And he's working with someone else. So I stopped going. And then later on, I tore my ACL. Same thing. I go to PT at the clinic. I'm in there. They're like, ride the bike. He's working with someone else. He's like, here, stretch your leg. I'm like, I can do this at home. Can you just give me some stuff to work on? He's like, no, we got to follow the model. I've been working with you a long time. We definitely blew the model out of the water for working with my biceps. Can you talk about your view on that, your view on the clinics, and talk about how we, like, I'm supposed to still be in a sling until Friday, and we were, like, hand fight wrestling, like 2 weeks ago. One day after, what was it, 1 week after you had me doing the kettlebell lifts already? So let's break that down a little bit. I know this is something that I brought you in because, like, you guys are both visionaries, and he's a visionary about this.
Yeah, this is the huge soapbox for me. To be quite honest with you, I think, and just like any complex problem, there are multiple factors. It's not just the PTs, it's not just the physicians, it's not just the insurance companies, it's not just the patients. There's a lot of factors involved here. But simply put, most clinics that take insurance and take all referrals from physicians, they are just set up to not take care of the patients. It's not malicious. It's not, nasty. It's not like they all get together and say, we're going to screw these patients over. They don't. They're just trying to run a business. So you have a lot of factors here that really lower patient quality of care, and you've touched on a couple of them, where people are seeing multiple patients at the same time. And in my model, Kroll Physical Therapy and Training, you don't get that problem. You never get the VIP treatment. Like I said, I don't treat you any differently than the person I just saw today for the first time, even though I've been friends with you for 20 plus years. You don't get treated any different. But there's a lot of reasons that happens. And so you think about it this way. Let's just take a clinic environment, right? Okay, so you have a PT clinic, and when you walk in, you're greeted by a very nice person at the front desk, right? Well, that person does not generate revenue. They maximize revenue by doing all the insurance information, but they don't generate revenue. Only the PTs do. So the PTs have to subsidize that revenue. You have overhead with your building. Every company is going to have that, so it's kind of a wash at times. My overhead's low because I do it out of my house. Most PT clinics have owners. Well, they all have owners, but sometimes those owners don't work. They don't work full schedules. Every hour the owner's not working, you're subsidizing that hour, because the owner's not going to say, I'll take less money this year. No, they want a certain amount of either presidential salary draw or monthly, quarterly profit draw from the company. They want a certain amount. They don't work, you have to subsidize that. So you're subsidizing the front office staff, any middle management, owners, overhead, you're subsidizing all of it. Well, you can bill Independent Health, Blue Cross Blue Shield, whatever you want for PT. You can bill them $600 for a session. You know what they're going to do? Pay you the same amount they would pay you anyway. They don't care how much you bill them. They're going to pay you $70, $45, whatever. So if you can't raise the price and you have all these expenditures, the only way you can cover that cost is by seeing more people at the same time. So it's a model that's set up not to help the patients. Okay, so that's one big problem, is the clinic environment itself. The next big problem, and again, I'm not going to name names, anything like that, but it's the physician side of things. So big soapbox here, big soapbox. So I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus by name, is because this thing's going to sit out here forever. So let's say I were to take this physician and throw them under the bus and say, oh, they suck, they do this. They're not here to defend themselves and give their side of the story. And what if my opinion on them changes, or they have a change of heart, or they change the way they're doing things? Then this thing is sitting out there forever and they're getting dogged the whole time. So I'm just talking more in generalities, but I'm using specifics from encounters I've had. So with the physician side of things, if they were to suspect cancer in you, they would send you to an oncologist. Now, they would say, okay, you're going to go see an oncologist. They wouldn't see, you're going to see an oncologist 2 times a week for 6 weeks. They would never do that. So it's a difference in nomenclature, really, because when we get scripts for PT, you're going to see physical therapy almost like it's a treatment modality, not a profession. So it needs to change from that to you're going to see the PT. I mean, I've had patients that they were nowhere near ready to return to work, activity, sport. They go see the physician. Yeah, you're fine. I'm like, what? But the physician will cancel out the PT services. They would never do that to an oncologist. They would never do that to a cardiologist. It's like, oh, Are you done seeing the cardiologist? I don't know. What did the cardiologist say? That's what the physician would say. Same thing should happen to us. I had a patient, 14, 15-year-old girl who had a fracture in her femur. A small hairline fracture, but enough to take her out of sport. She squatted horribly. I made your squat look great.
God, someone did.
She squatted horribly, and she's going to see the physician next day. I pulled her and her parents aside. I said, look, the physician is going to tell you you can go back to sport because you have no pain, you have good muscle activation, individual muscle activation, your range of motion is good about all your joints. They're going to say you're fine. Do not let it happen. Fight and fight and fight for more visits. You're not ready. She's not ready. She goes back. She's going to be back here in 6 to 8 months or somewhere else. Okay? So it was like Nostradamus. Physician had her squat. And I said, her squat is atrocious. Physician said, you're good. Did that hurt? Nope. You're good. So what I'm getting to is that we all have our specialties. We're all really good at things. People ask me all the time, should I stop taking this gabapentin? I know very little about gabapentin. I know what it does in essence, but I tell them, go talk to your physician. Mm-hmm. You know, if it's making you sick, write down your symptoms, talk to your physician. I would never tell them to come off their gabapentin. I would never tell a surgeon what sutures to use. Mm-hmm. Why in the world would a physician who doesn't have the training that I do, that doesn't have the experience that any of us have in rehab, tell their patients what they should be doing?
Can I stop you for 1 second? How many years of school did you go to be a PT?
6.
So you have a doctorate then, right?
Yes, sir.
So you're a doctor, the same as a doctor. That's okay. You can keep going now. I just want everyone to understand that you're not some guy that took a 6-hour course. You're an actual doctor as well.
And it really isn't even that. It really isn't even that much. If you work in a hospital environment, you'll be working with a respiratory therapist who has 2 years of training. You know what? If I have a question on any respiratory therapy, I'm going to put their 2 years of training, solid training, and all their experience over my 16 weeks of cardiopulmonary PT at UB. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I don't care if I have a doctorate and they have a certificate. They're the expert. It doesn't matter that my degree was harder to get than theirs. It means nothing. An MD or a DO degree, much harder to get than mine. I'll fully admit that. But it doesn't matter. So we're going to tie that back to the clinic model by saying when the physicians refer to you, they control you because they control the purse strings. And if you don't do what they want, they're going to stop sending to you. So what do you think happens? The physicians are sending us notes that say, I want you to do ultrasound. I want you to do this stretching program. I want you to do this exercise. You're not the expert. Just send them to me and I'll take care of it. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't work, I'll send them back to you. You know, we have one physician, we have one physician in the area. I don't particularly like her. I'm not going to call her out by name, but I don't particularly like her. And she doesn't like me either. But honestly, when you see patients from her clinic, you're a low back patient, you're going to do the same 4 exercises every time. And if you don't do those same 4 exercises, you're not seeing her patients anymore. Now, you guys aren't medical professionals, but do you think that cookie cutter nonsense is the best approach?
Absolutely not.
I would have to ask, do you think this is a problem over the whole medical field, or is it a problem because of insurance, or is it just specific doctors?
It's some physicians are great. Some physicians say, you know what, just do what you do. That's awesome. If a physician tells me, look, here's what I found in my evaluation, here's what I found that I think could be helpful, would you consider trying this? That's awesome. I love it. Give me your knowledge. Help me make this patient better. If you want me to do phonophoresis for a reason, just give me a reason. Let me know what it is. If you want me to do this type of manipulation, let me know. Just give me a reason. Don't just say you need to do this or I'm not sending you patients. I don't think it's a big a deal with the insurance companies at that point. Really what it comes down to with the insurance companies is a lot of the practitioners are afraid to do what's called direct access. So direct access is where you can see a physical therapist without seeing your physician first. Okay, you don't need a script. So for X amount of time in New York State, 30 days or 10 visits, you can see your PT without seeing your physician. After that, they have to send you to your physician to get some sort of script and just to make sure that, hey, if we've been treating you for 30 days and you're not improving, let's make sure it's not something more insidious. It's not cancer. It's not an organ. It's not something else. Okay? But the insurance companies won't really pay for direct access. So again, how do the clinics get away from the physicians and how do they cut them out of the loop? If they won't pay for direct access, no clinic's going to work for free. Then you got to see more patients per hour, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not so much an insurance thing on that front.
Can you? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Chris.
I was going to say it's a tough situation to be in, I think, for any. It's a tough situation all the way around because the way that things are set up, doctors are losing money because they're not in control of the pricing or what they're going to get paid for. So, like you said, you're not getting necessarily the individual care that you deserve as a patient. On the other side, you say you feel bad for the physicians or the doctors that are in the position where they still need to make a living, right? They've got $300,000 in student debt or student loans, and now they're only going to get paid X amount of dollars through the insurance company regardless of what they do for that patient. So I think overall, when you're looking at the system as a whole, it's not friendly to the patient. It's not friendly to the doctor. So who's making out, right? I mean, who's really making out the way that things are set up,
But
the way they are right now?
Here's the reality, though. As a practitioner, I have a choice. Okay, I can choose to treat like garbage and see 4 patients an hour, knowing that I'm not doing a good job. I can choose to do that, and a lot of kids come out of school and they don't want to fight the system. They just want to get their check and go home.
Yeah.
You know, they're not interested. But there's a lot of practitioners out there. I'm not the only one. There's myself. There's Chris Nentars, who's the founder of Move Well One-on-One PT. He's in Buffalo, I believe. There's Dr. Religioso, who's part of Edge Mobility Systems. He's in Williamsville. We all do very similar things. We all see people one-on-one every time, no questions asked. It works. So
Do you think that being said, and Caveman, I apologize, I'll let you get to your line of questioning. My question is this. Close your eyes and do the Nostradamus thing. Look into your crystal ball and say, where do you see the future of medicine in the United States? Is it moving towards smaller practices, home-based businesses, instead of large clinic, big business operations type of thing?
those large clinics are always going to exist.
Sure.
They're always going to exist because there's a need. The reason that any business ever sprouts in any field is because there's a need for it, or someone has a product that works, right? So if the clinic model worked awesome for every patient, my home business wouldn't exist. Neither would Chris Nantar's, neither would Dr. Religioso's.
Sure.
There wouldn't exist. But the need is there. The demand is there. People want, like you. Caveman, you wanted to be seen one-on-one. You were tired of going on the bike while your PT was stretching somebody else. It was nonsense, and you knew it was nonsense.
I got a couple things to say because we're talking about what you do, but we haven't really described it. Mm-hmm. What Dr. Kroll does is he bills out of his office, and he doesn't take insurance. So he totally cut out all the insurance. So there's no, he doesn't take insurance, so he doesn't have to deal with insurance companies. And what we do is we go there, and he bills me, and we pay cash. Hopefully I don't get in trouble with the IRS. I'm sure it's all above board, and he's got a professional doctor's license and everything. I go in there, and we do our work, and it's just 45 minutes to an hour with me and Dr. Kroll, and we pay in cash and or check or whatever, and there's no insurance. So what he's doing is kind of revolutionary. It's kind of like how Fandoozy works, and we're starting something new. Him and those couple of doctors are starting a new wave of PT. And maybe it doesn't work with the doctor model because you still got to do tests for the doctor model. You got break your leg, you got to go get an X-ray, so you got to include that in somehow. But can you talk about a little bit more about how you started this business as a cash business and how you really truly are a revolutionary in what you're doing?
Well, thank you. The interesting thing about the cash model is people get really scared of it. Because, at current 2016 prices, it's $80 to see me for the first visit and $50 for a visit after that. And people go, holy shit, I can't pay for that. But you know what I see in the clinic? $45 copay.
Sure.
$35 copay. So here's the thing. Let me ask you guys a question. So you guys don't work clinically. Take a wild guess. If an insurance company like Independent Health authorizes you for 12 visits, how many times do you think you're going to be seen by a clinic? Take a wild number. It rhymes with 12. You're going to be seen for all 12 visits, and you're going to be pressured to be seen twice a week, whether you need it or not. In the clinic model, I've been told, make sure you get that patient in twice a week. You know who told me that? Someone without a medical license, one of the front office staff. Okay?
Sure, because they're still running a business.
They're still running a business, right? And again, I don't necessarily 100% fault them for it. I get it. I understand it. But At the same time, you start doing the math. Okay, let's say a $35 copay, right? 12 sessions, $420, right? At all copays. So you're seeing 6 weeks. You've had to inconvenience yourself 12 times to travel to and from the clinic to get, in many cases, like you said, shitty care, right? You're bouncing around from one patient to another. You have no choice because you're just a peon. You're just working as the schedule dictates. But you're paying $420 for shit care, okay? And, I mean, it's not that the therapist is bad, but sometimes you just get shitty care and they're overbooked. Now, you look at my model. I'll see you the first visit. There's 80, okay? I'll probably see you once next week, once the week after that. We're up to 180 now. You're way below, plus you haven't been inconvenienced, at this case, 6 times, okay? See you once after that. If you're not getting better, you're probably done with me, okay?
Sure.
So now you've spent, what, 230? You're
half.
not getting, you're spending half, you're not getting better, you're out.
Sure.
If you are getting better, I'll see you 2 weeks from there, and then you're up to what, 280? And you've gotten a lot better care. But here's the big kicker. Here's the big thing. I'm not done with you. You're not finished. It's not like, okay, we're cut off, you're done. You are now my patient, my client for life. You come in 6 months from now, I'll put you through a movement screen so that you don't become a patient again.
Yeah.
And that's where physical therapy really needs to go. So you're talking about the revolutionary side of things. A dentist gets to look in your mouth every 6 months, right? Not because your mouth hurts. Well, your mouth might hurt from getting punched.
Stupid teeth keep falling out every time you get punched.
But you don't go to the dentist because your mouth hurts. You go to the dentist so your mouth doesn't hurt. Okay? You go to the physician every year. They take a sample of your blood. They do a urinalysis. They get their stethoscope on you. They look in your ears. They look in your nose. They look in your throat, right? To see if they can find something. After a certain age, they do a prostate exam. And women, they do mammograms. Why? Because they want to prevent injury. So with PT, why the hell can't we do the same thing?
Sure.
So look at the data alone. Musculoskeletal injuries are, what, $960 million, right? Now, that's only musculoskeletal injury. So let me ask you this. Chris, how about this one for you? If your leg's all busted up and you wanted to go start your exercise program, how much are you going to exercise?
I'm probably not.
Okay, so if you're now sedentary because you can't exercise because you're hurt, do you think your risk of cardiopulmonary issues, heart disease, endocrine issues, hormonal issues, diabetes, do you think it goes up or down?
No, it goes way up.
It goes way up. So now you can take that musculoskeletal and it gloms on to cardiovascular problems and now just increases your risk. Now we're well over billions of dollars because people didn't get screened in the first place. So
Sure.
an insurance company will never pay for that right now, but they'll gladly pay a dentist to look in your mouth and scrape your teeth.
So you're looking at preventative PT.
Absolutely. If I can get a look at people every 6 months for $50 a pop, $80 a pop, and I can save them from 20 PT visits, sold.
I want to say something real quick. I tell people about like your pricing structure and to go see you, and a lot of people are like, it's super expensive. I don't know if I can do it. And then you ask them, are you getting better doing what you're doing? And the answer is no. And
You're lighting your money on fire.
you really are. You're just wasting your money. It's $35 at a time or $80 up front. I trust in you, Dr. Kroll. You're doing an awesome job. Like the first time I went to train with Lee, he was getting me ready for a fight. We did all the stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, come in. We're gonna start training." 2 fights ago, when we were still over at Bally's, and I came in and I thought I was gonna get all sweaty and be all ready to go through like an MMA workout, and I left. I didn't even sweat, but I went home. I was sore, and I felt so much better. And weeks and weeks and weeks of that came, and I got to the fight, and I felt better than I ever did. We never really even actually did too much strength work. What do we end up doing? You told me my goddamn squat was too shitty. I couldn't squat anymore, so I couldn't do leg exercise. And he's like, "Man, your deadlift is awful. Don't do that anymore." I'm like, Jesus Christ, what am I supposed to do? He's like, "Don't do anything. Just do what I tell you." So I'm like, I'm doing all this shit. This is the first time I didn't really lift for a fight, and I ended up probably being the strongest that I ever was for that fight down in PA. And you actually came to that one too.
Because your exercise that was given to you was not about quantity, it was about quality. What did you need? It wasn't like, okay, here's the MMA fighter, give him the MMA program. It wasn't that type of horse shit. It was just, I have to look at you, and okay, I'm going to take you, and here's your problems. If I have you keep squatting, you're not going to get any better. I'm trying to stack all this strength on top of shit, and it doesn't work. So we took your squat out. And as I told you one time, when you kind of looked at me funny, when I look at people's exercise programs, I spend more time deleting than I do adding. Okay? You are busy. You have your Thai to work on. You got your wrestling to keep sharp. You work 40 hours a week.
Or 50.
Or 50. You got your jiu-jitsu game to keep strong, your hands, your feet. All that stuff has to be worked on in skill. Do you really have 2 hours to go to the gym and do garbage? No.
If I don't sleep, man,
If you don't sleep.
overrated.
If you don't sleep, right? So, yeah, it's all about personalization, and it's all about looking at you as a person. And honestly, you could have a $5 copay. You could have a $0 copay, but your time is valuable. And if you go to a PT clinic and you're not getting better, and your PT spending a whole 8 or 9 minutes with you doing cookie cutter nonsense or watching you from afar doing the same shit you should be doing at home, waste of time. Waste of time, waste of money, and time is money.
And the other thing I like about you, man, is I come in, you actually listen to what I say, and I know I shouldn't judge you by this, but a lot of times you look at a doctor, you're like, they're not an athlete. I seen you fight in the ring. Kroll actually kickboxed before. It was a pretty exciting match.
Cool.
He's the one that introduced me to martial arts, so I always want to bring that out and talk about it a little bit. What were we, like 12 or 13? Out front, Zygmunt's yard. He's twirling the bow staff. I was like, man, that is so goddamn cool. I want to do that. I want to be a ninja and shit. So then we started training together, and then like a week later, I was over there sparring with Dave Ryan.
Yep.
Punched him in the face.
One day.
Yeah.
First day.
Oh, yeah. First day I was punched him in the face, and that kind of just popped into my career. And you've done jiu-jitsu, you train. You kind of understand what the athlete needs, so you really have the whole like, I call you like a movement expert. So for all us athletes that aren't really at the high pro level athletes like the Bills or the Sabres that can afford to have thousands and thousands of dollars in personal trainers, I couldn't recommend anyone better than you for doing any of this kind of work.
Well, I appreciate it, and that's KrolPhysicalTherapy.com if you ever want to go and check out the website and see what I do. Jeff's been great in terms of talking with my patients. I've actually given out his information a few times with his permission, of course. And
stupid hippo.
And I'm like, this guy will talk to you. And honestly, because we've been such good friends for so long, if I'm doing a shit job, he'll tell me about it.
Same thing. He actually said my podcast doesn't suck, and if it did suck, he would tell me.
I would absolutely tell you. I would laugh at you every day. And I'd laugh at Chris too. And Chris might not take it so well. But no, the thing is, it's you say, I shouldn't judge you by this, but you're always judging people. You're always sizing people up. I mean, when you go in there and your surgeon doesn't look at you, I mean, he's spending his 66% of the session, which is 4 of the 6 minutes, looking at his screen, and then says, well, put your arm back in a sling, hasn't asked you one time how PT is going or how anything else is going. Yeah, you're going to judge him on that. And the fact that he's not an athlete, that's going to show out even more. Fair or not, right or wrong, it doesn't matter. I mean, you got a real bad taste in your mouth, whereas when you saw the other physician, you had a really good taste in your mouth.
Yeah,
from that.
Sure.
I mean, he was great. He talked to you at length. He got to know you. He got to know what you're all about. Because, I mean, think about it this way. I had my ACL reconstructed 14, 15 years ago, and the surgeon who did it was Dr. Slough, and I was very happy with him, very impressed with him and his staff. But he knew what I was about. He knew, okay, you're playing hockey, you're doing martial arts, you're kickboxing, you're rolling. I don't really know what all that stuff entails, but I know you're doing something, and he got to know me. So he tailored his expectations around that. He said, look, I want you on your crutches for 3 days. Knowing damn well I wasn't going to be, but telling me what was going to happen if I didn't. And he was very upfront, and everything he said was true. Yeah. So I was black, blue, and purple from my hip down to my toes. I called him up, and he actually talked to me on the phone, rare as that is. And he said, you're not using your crutches, are you? No. And this is before I knew anything about PT. I was still working as a computer programmer. He's like, you're walking around on it without your mobilizer, aren't you? Maybe.
That's why I say Lee all the time. He's like, are you rolling? I was like, maybe.
And it's okay as long as I know. Because one of the most frustrating things is when a patient says, man, I don't know what happened. Well, come on. I mean, seriously. Like I had one patient, he told me one time, a true story, kind of hilarious. I actually laughed right at him. I couldn't help it. It's probably not the best thing to do, but
very professional.
I'm like, dude. He's like, yeah, I think those exercises you gave me last time really bothered me. And now, mind you, I gave him some very simple neck movements, which could be really painful to someone if they have a problem. In the clinic, wasn't painful. Under my supervision, wasn't painful. So I sent him home with it. I said, okay, you did great here. Let's go home with this one. Came back Monday. He's like, man, terrible. I think it was that exercise that really jacked me up. Okay, well, let me do some work on you. And then I start talking. How was your weekend? Talk about the Bills. I don't give a damn about the Bills. To the patient, but I'm trying to find out what the hell they did.
Bills are doing good, man.
If
4-2.
If I said, what did you do to exacerbate your neck? They're going to be like, nothing. So I said, well, what did you do this weekend? Went over to my son's house. He called me. So he had a bunch of stuff in his basement to move out. I'm like, what? He said, I had to move this pallet of bricks out. I'm like, dude, you think my cervical retractions, which is just drawing your head straight back, do you think that jacked up your neck? Not moving a whole pallet of bricks on a Sunday. He's like, well, yeah, I guess that might have something to do with
it. Sure, right?
But you have to listen to your patients. You have to talk to them. Yeah. It's just the way it is.
It's about relationship building, and that's what you don't get in the clinic model, right? And that's what you don't get in the big brick and mortars. So, again, I love it. Krol, it's, Doc, spell that. It's Krol.
Yep, 1 L. You got it right.
Krol, physicaltherapy.com.
Yep, and the email address you can use is drkrolpt@gmail.com. So it's drkrolpt@gmail.com. Get in touch with me. I'll get in touch with you pretty quickly. Find out what's going on.
I still got some more questions. Eric Herbert came in. He talked a lot about the VA hospital. I believe you spent some time there. Can you talk about the VA model? There's been a lot of talk that it's not so good for the returning servicemen and women. Can you talk about that a little bit?
VA model is a completely separate animal. Being a governmental entity, I mean, they can't get fired from there. I mean, you can't. You're overloaded. You're in a huge system. So if you want to change something, you can't do it. I mean, certain VA hospitals could use 3 or 4 new PTs, and they just can't get them. They can't get the funding. And the PT director can scream from the rooftop all they want. It's not going to happen. So, I have a belief that any business, any organization, any entity can do anything they want if properly motivated. Mm-hmm. So a couple years ago, they had that problem in the Southwest with the vets being on waiting lists and dying, and it got national headlines. If you would have told the VA hospital or any large entity 3 months before that, we need to audit all your scheduling systems. We can't do that. We don't have the manpower. I don't even know where to start. Hey, you guys are on CNN, Fox, and NBC. Okay, we'll get it done. And it got done in what, 3 months?
Sure.
It got done quickly. So the proper motivation, they can do it. But that type of entity, it's not the people, it's the system. So you can't dog the PTs, you can't dog the physicians. They're just working in the system. They're doing the best they can. I mean, I've been there. I know how it works. I've been there from a service side of things. I worked there as a student and did a contract did a contract session there for a while. They're doing the best they can. It's just when your schedule's booked out 35 days, you're not seeing a person that's having an acute back pain. Now they're going to be a chronic back pain because it took them 40 days to see their physician and then 30 more days to see you. That's 70-some days. And now an acute case, which probably could have been taken care of in 4 or 5 visits, is now turned into a chronic thing. So it is tough. I can't dog the whole VA system. I don't know enough about the other departments. I can only speak to the PT side of things, but really the people there do the best they can. And they're stuck in a very big system that just does not move well. It's not flexible.
Sure. And they're seeing a body, they're not seeing a person, right? I mean, once you get 40 days out, you're rolling them through. They're not getting to know you. There's no relationship building there.
Well, that's not completely true because the VA has pretty strict standards on how many patients they can see at a time.
Okay.
So they're a lot better than most of the clinics out there in that regard. It's just, I mean, there's frequent flyers where you see them. There are certain people that come in, they've seen everybody on staff. They're chronics. Or, the one guy, he came in and I'm like, okay, so when did you first start having back pain? He's like, well, the Tet Offensive. Like,
jeez.
That was 10 years before I was born. So it's like, I mean, are you really fixing someone who stepped off of a stool and they couldn't run? And he was telling me, it's like, look, I stepped down when the alarm started going off and the bomb started falling, and I stepped down and I could not move. He said, if you can't move when the bomb's going off, you can't move.
You can't move.
I said, so what do you do? He said, I sat down, I lit a cigarette, and I knew if the bomb hit me, it'd be quick. Okay.
Wow.
So, but I mean, honest, it's he's had that back pain for 50 years. It's not your probably not going to do much to change. Here, do these repeated extensions, and we're all going to be all good.
I got a great story about like how you do your work and the results that you get. Can you talk about the guy that you was trying to bench 300 pounds? Give that story real quick. That's a really good one.
Sure. So
Chris would be pretty interested in this one. He probably benches 300 pounds.
Oh my gosh, no, not anymore.
So here's the thing. When you're a specialist, you have to be a specialist. You have to really look at things from a broad view. Okay, so I had a guy years and years ago. His goal was to bench 300 pounds. And it's not up to me to tell you what your goal is. He wants to do it. Let's see what we can do for him. Stuck around 270, 280. Couldn't get past the hump. So I looked at him, and I found a whole bunch of movement problems: thoracic spine, scapular instability, shoulder mobility problems all over the place. So I said, I don't want you to bench until I tell you. No more benching. And he didn't like that. He was, because, again, exercise is a pharmaceutical, and he was addicted to his benching. So, but he was good. And I said, look, if you don't do what I tell you, I'm going to fire you. I don't care. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to take your money. Okay? So he's like, okay, fair enough. So little time goes by, and he calls me up, and he's pissed off. He's like, I feel myself getting weaker. I'm not benching. This is bullshit. This is ridiculous. And he's really mad. He's unhappy because he hasn't benched, and he feels himself getting weaker. He's like, I haven't been doing it. I know I'm losing my ground here. I'm losing my gains. I said, let me ask.
Still your set.
Yeah, it's still your set. So I said, well, let me ask you this. Have you done drop setting? Yes. Have you used a spotter and done heavy weights, low reps? Yes. Have you done tricep pre-exhaustion? Yes. Have you done supplemental exercises like incline and decline bench? Yes. Chest flies? Yes. Put chains on the bar? Yes. Then why in the flying would I do the same thing? You've already tried all this shit and it didn't work. Your strength output was not the problem. Something else was broken underneath it. Your foundation was broken. 300 pounds is not your genetic maximum. So there's something else going on, whether it's your sleep, your hydration, your movement, your blood pH, whatever. Something's broken, and I'm trying to fix it. You've already tried all the other nonsense, and it didn't work. I said, if you go back to benching, don't come see me anymore. It's over. He's like, all right, I get it, fine. He got his movement right. He got his thoracic spine movement going. Scapular stability was good. And I said, okay, you're done with me. Go back to benching. You're going to be a little weaker than you expect. He wasn't much weaker. Wasn't much weaker at all. Within a couple weeks, he was back to what he was doing. And a couple weeks after that, he called me up and said, I got to 300. I'm like, good. That's awesome. But if I had just done the same shit that he expected, he wasn't going to get better.
Sure.
So my job is to not be your friend, but to be your therapist or your trainer, and to really look at things the way they're supposed to be looked at and find the movement problems and see if it fixes it. If it doesn't, go on to something else. But yeah, you have to be the professional, and you have to listen to your patients and know when not to listen to your patients.
Oh, the pain scale. Talk about the pain scale. He's got a great solution for when people say 10.
So the pain scale is funny. It's no matter how many numbers you put on it, it's still a subjective thing.
Sure.
Caveman has different pain than I do, than different pain tolerance than you do. So it's all different. And it depends what type of pain, too. I mean, so I was telling you the story off the air about how he hit me in the face with a stick.
Yeah.
That was not
That's
a
great.
10. It wasn't pleasant. So Jeff hit me in the face. Think of like sliding a pool cue, and that's what Jeff did. He hit me in the face. Now, it wasn't...
He had our knee sticks. It was a fair fight.
Yeah, it was a fair fight, and I just didn't block
Made me
it.
look bad.
But it was a fair fight, and no hard feelings. We had pizza and wings 15 minutes later. We were good. But that wasn't a 10. Now, you give me a paper cut on a knuckle, and I don't like it.
Sure.
That's worse to
Yeah.
me. So everybody's pain's different. Now, I have patients, they come in, they fill out a pain scale for insurance reasons usually at the clinic. But it's not the numbers, it's what they're saying on the pain scale. So they're like, current pain 10, best pain 10, worst pain 10. So I said, well, your pain's always a 10. The nice thing is it's the worst pain you've ever had all the time, right? Yep, it never changes. Always the worst pain I've ever had. Good. That means I can do pretty much anything I want to you in this evaluation. It's not going to get worse. I can crank your head around, and they're like, well, no, that'll make it worse. Okay, so we can make it worse. Yeah. So it knocks it down a little bit, but it's not to pick on the patient. It's to show them, okay, your pain's not as bad as you think it is.
Yeah.
And it's a learning tool, and it's a learning time. So it's not about the numbers. It's about their perception and changing it. So again, that's listening to your patient, and that's helping them understand their problem. I've had patients where I've talked to them for 45 minutes and haven't done any physical exam. That's cool. It's fine, because they usually leave feeling better. Okay, because I've helped them understand that a herniated disc is not inherently painful. Arthritis is not inherently painful. Any type of issue like that is not inherently painful. So they leave feeling better, and I've started to do my job and laid the foundation to help them move later.
That's
so,
one thing you're really good at, too. You always explain what we're doing and what's going on. I had, like, a lot of people ask me about this, so I have to ask you about this. Does cupping work?
Sure. It's just like any other treatment technique. You know, when something comes out, like kinesiotaping got big years and years ago because beach volleyball players were doing it. It's just a treatment technique. Cupping, now that, you know, Michael Phelps had all the bruises on his back, everybody's like, "Oh, that's great. When can we do cupping?" I'm like, last time I did cupping was about 3 years ago. That's fine. It's a treatment technique. It works for some people and not for others, just like anything else.
What does it actually do?
The weird thing about a lot of the treatments that we do is that we think we know, and then we find out we don't know. Not that the treatment was ineffective, it's not for the reasons we thought. So a lot of the idea is that it's separating layers of tissue and bringing blood flow to the area. Now, how much does it separate the tissue? I don't know. It's not like you have them in an MRI or you're doing an imaging ultrasound while you're doing it, so you don't really know. Does the change in sensation just change the pain level or the movement quality? Sure, we see that all the time in all sorts of treatments. Is it actually doing that? We have no idea. And we'd be remiss if we said we knew. We don't. It's just best theory.
It was crazy because you used the tape on me twice. And one time I thought it was just like horse crap because it didn't do anything. And then the other time you put on the swelling and it removed the swelling from my arm. Is it just like a hit and miss kind of thing? Or
it's just like anything else with the injections. You can get an injection in your knee, does nothing. Get an injection in your shoulder, it's great. So depending on what I'm using the tape for, some people do really well with it. But every single treatment you do, doesn't matter what it is, including surgery, there's always a placebo effect. There's been studies out there where they've done sham surgeries on people. Just put an incision on them, didn't do anything, people got better. People moved better. People had less pain. Sham surgery. So if I put the kinesio tape on that bumped up surgical site, which is now completely flat on you a couple weeks later, you're going to be like, okay, this is helping it move better. I feel better. Now, if Chris were to come up to you and say, hey, let me throw this on you, bro.
I would go for it, dude. Whatever Chris says.
You're like, yeah, go for it.
He's the boss, man. That's what we do.
For it. But you're not gonna believe in the treatment as much as if I did it.
Right.
Right.
Correct.
So,
well, I thought it was horse shit because it didn't work the first time. So I was like, all right, do whatever you want. It's like $20 a roll. I don't give a shit. I'll take it.
Right. But yeah, it's one of those things that, I'm not married to any technique. I could care less. If manipulations work well on you and I enjoy doing them, great. I enjoy doing them. But if it doesn't work on you, I'm not doing them. It's not effective for you. I don't care what works for you. Whether it's PT, chiropractic, acupuncture, massage, I don't give a shit. Get better. And that's the nice thing about, the way I treat and the way I do my model. I tell my patients all the time, I'm not broke. If you don't come to the next session, I don't lose my house. Okay? So I'm not looking at you as an ATM. I'm looking at you as a person. Patient first every single time. And I've told people, look, I've even told you this, go get in to see your chiropractor. You like the way I do my manipulations, but I think they're better at it than I am.
I don't know. You're a lot stronger than the chiropractors I go to. Dr. Brown excluded. Like when you crack me, it's really good. And you take the time and the patience, and you do your crazy martial arts techniques, so this is pretty sick. Like, you definitely have different grips, and it works for me. I definitely feel better.
So I know I have one last question for you, Doc, and that's, you don't necessarily need treatment to come see you, correct? If you want to improve your physical being or you need training, I know that he's manipulated you. Mm-hmm. Do I need to be in some sort of pain or rehab to come see you?
Not at all. And in fact, a lot of times what you find is that you may not even notice you have pain until I discover it. So the reason you're not moving well is because you're avoiding pain. You're like, hey, my shoulder hasn't hurt anymore. Well, why? Well, because I haven't moved it in that range anymore, right? So you're avoiding a problem because you have.
He's always like, put your shoulders down. Now it hurts.
But no, absolutely. Because the thing is, Chris, when I want to see you is when you're not a patient.
Sure.
If you're coming up to me and you're saying, you know what, I've been trying to work out and it's not going well. I'm really tired, or I'm really sore for a long period of time, or I'm just not making any improvements at all. What the hell's going on? I may find some underlying problems that would make you a patient eventually.
Sure.
But we're nipping it in the bud. So I want to see people before they even become patients. I want to see people before they have pain. That's the big thing. You don't need to be in pain or have a surgery or have a real problem to come in and see me. I want to see you prior to that so you don't ever become a patient. It's cheaper for you. It's better for the community.
Well, I love it, and I think you'll be getting an email from me as I move through this. I was telling Caveman, and I think, Doc, you were here when I mentioned it too. I just went to see a hypnotherapist, a clinical hypnotherapist, to get back on track, to get healthy, start working out again, to get my mind back in the right place. When I left Alaska, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, I was in probably the best physical condition I've ever been in. And that went to hell pretty quick as soon as I got back to Buffalo. The food here, for anybody listening outside of Buffalo, is ridiculous. So, dude, I missed January or February when I was on the road? Absolutely not. Did I miss the pizza, the wings, and the rest of the food here in Buffalo? Absolutely. So, anyway, that's interesting that you say that, because I know that it's going to take me a little bit. I needed to get my mind right. But to hear what you're having to say, it might be perfect situation for me, because I'm going to be an open book through this whole thing. I already said that I would release all my information and track my progress and let people watch how this goes for me. I've got 67 to 70 pounds to lose right now.
You should definitely come in the gym after you start seeing him.
Well, here's the thing, Chris. Do you want to be on the fast track to getting your results or the slow track? Do you think you're an expert at conditioning and training?
And it's funny. I'm not, because right. I'm not and you and I talked. For anybody listening out there, Doc and I met a couple months ago at the beta party for Fandoozy.com, but we don't know each other. Found out we were both TAs for comparative primate anatomy. I have a physical anthropology degree, so I did a lot of putting skeletons back together and all that fun stuff.
Dissecting monkeys,
everything that comes with it. So, I understand the anatomy, the human anatomy, the primate anatomy. I understand the training. I worked for Gold's Gym way, probably 3 lifetimes ago, it feels like now. And I was in great shape, so I knew training. And I have a couple buddies that are still dynamite physical trainers, but I don't have anyone in my circle, and well, now I do, that's a physical therapist that treats the root of the issues before they start to talk about what plan they're putting together for you in the gym.
So can I just interject something? We had talked before about some of the problems with the clinic environment, why you see so many patients, and the clinic environment can stink. The insurance companies can help dictate what you do, but the physicians who aren't experts in rehab are telling the rehab professionals what to do, which lowers your quality of care. The interesting thing about my model and Chris Nentar's model and Dr. Religioso's model is that we're actually taking the physicians and cutting them out, which is awesome. And it's nothing against the physicians. I refer people back to physicians all the time.
Sure.
Like, okay, you're not getting better. You need to go see someone.
Mm-hmm.
You're out of my realm now. You're into theirs. But here's the thing. I just got a patient that I started seeing today from a Pilates instructor. Pilates instructor referred this patient to me. I'm going to work with her a few times, probably 3 or 4, send her back to the Pilates instructor. The patient will never see the physician unless there's a problem.
It's great.
So what we're doing is, I'm sort of taking power back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to be a referral source to the physicians.
Yeah.
So they're not going to tell me what to do. I'm not going to tell them what to do either. I'm not going to say, okay, you need to do this blood panel test, you need to do this test here. That's way out of my realm. I'm saying, look, here's what I did with them. Here's why I'm sending them to you. Do your thing.
Mm-hmm.
Send them back to me if you want. Send them somewhere else if you need to. If you feel that they're more appropriate to go somewhere else, great, whatever. I just want them to get better.
Mm-hmm.
So by making a network with Pilates instructors, yoga instructors, personal trainers, gyms, whether it's fighting, boxing, dance, anything, get in touch with me. Let's form a relationship and let's take care of our people. Because honestly, if they're, just look at it from a straight up business standpoint. If you run a dance studio and 4 or 5 of your girls are out for 6 months because they're hurt, you're not making money.
Sure. Yeah.
If you're running a yoga studio and you're cranking away on people who can't do a plank and you're having them do Kroll and they start banging up their shoulders, they're not coming back and you're losing money.
And in the long run for the client, they're saving a ton of money. Let's face it.
They're saving money. And the most important thing, let's never get away from this. their quality of life is improving.
Sure, and that's the most important part.
That's the most important part. I'll tell you a little side story about a clinic situation. I had 2 side stories, and then I'll let you get back to your questions. Sorry, Caveman, you're getting antsy in the chair.
I know I got these 2 I want to ask you, man.
And maybe I'll answer one indirectly, but
He's going to throw fists at me, I'm sure.
here's the thing. I had an issue where my schedule at the one clinic was really booked up. I was seeing 2 patients every half hour, so 4 patients an hour. And I had a hole in later afternoon in my schedule. Later in the afternoon in my schedule. So what happened was I had talked to the front office staff, and I said, they're like, oh, we're trying to fill this hole later or something. I'm like, well, if you can't fill it, how about calling some of these people and moving them down?
Mm-hmm.
You know what the response I was met with? Laughter. It's funny, but it's not.
It's not funny. It's not.
I'm trying to say, let's move these patients down so I can spend more time with each one of them. And they're like, we're not paying you more payroll to spend more time with patients.
See, I'm laughing out of disbelief because it's a total disregard for the patient.
Total disregard. And the person who laughed at me is not a bad person.
Yeah.
The people who run the clinic, they're not bad people.
Sure.
They're just...
It doesn't... Hey, what do you mean? It doesn't work that way. Right? I mean...
Right. It was just like I had said
come on,
something for
Dr. Kroll. It doesn't work that way. You know better. Right? Why would you do more for the patient?
Right. It's put the patient first every time. And the other story I had was I was talking to a clinic owner, and he's an incredible human being. And I'm not just saying that because I'm going to say something that's not so great, but he really is. He's a great human being. I would love to hang out with this guy. But, we were talking privately the one time, and he was saying, look, the way it works here is that, the physician's our boss. We have to make the physician happy. I looked at him and I said, in my world, the patient's the boss.
Yeah.
And he goes, I mean, they're not the boss in terms of, they're going to tell me what to do, but my goal is to take care of them. I don't care about if the physician doesn't like what I do and the patient gets better. I don't give a damn.
Yeah, and, that's a totally different viewpoint from what you experience on a regular basis. Almost in any realm. And that's funny because it doesn't even necessarily need to be physical therapy or in medicine. I mean, we've just seen a move for years now. We've seen a move away from just serving the customer, serving the person.
Yep.
And you can take that right down to a coffee shop.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a different,
Absolutely.
It's not the same as getting to know your customers. It's not like it was. And here we are talking about your health and your physical well-being and your longevity, and you're being pushed through like a herd of cattle without thinking about the patient, without thinking about the person. And what you're doing, I think it's noble. It's revolutionary for the time, and it's certainly great to talk to you.
Yeah, it's.
And is that what's going on here? We have a visitor at the studio, and I believe we're not. Oh, geez, that's Caveman. You all right, buddy?
Yeah.
All this talk.
I got locked out of my own podcast. I had to go pee. I had
He's back.
6 rock stars today, so I've been peeing a lot.
There you go.
Like an intermission.
Yeah.
We locked the
Let's
cave.
all go to the lobby.
Good thing I'm
lobby.
editing this, right? But maybe I'll cut that out. Maybe I won't. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Speaking about Rockstar, I just want to talk about, is there anything that as athletes we should be eating or avoiding, or supplements we should be taking to help us recover and getting through our day-to-day trainings that you would recommend? I'm sorry.
You get a little out of my realm with that. I'm definitely not a nutritionist. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not an expert on supplements. So for me to say, okay, take this, not take that, that would be really inappropriate on my part. I will say this. Anytime you supplement yourself, it becomes the supplement strength, the supplement's gains, not yours. A long time ago, I used to lift pretty reasonably heavy. And I was taking Celtec and Mesotec, and I wasn't going crazy with it and spending a ton of money on it, but I was taking it. And I was doing a standing row, 540 for 10. And I never gained any size, but I was pretty strong. Got off the Celtec, and that plummeted about 90 to 100 pounds. So I'm like, this isn't my strength. And I didn't know anything about PT at the time. I was just a personal trainer. But I'm like, this isn't mine. So this is artificial. Now, I wasn't competing in anything. I wasn't trying to, get an edge on an opponent. I was just doing it for my own good. And I'm like, you know what? I really don't know what all this is.
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to do to my kidney? What's this going to do to my liver? And we don't know. We don't know until we get long-term historical data. And there's a bunch of people that say, hey, I took this and I got sick.
I used to drink ephedrine like it was water.
Well, you know what the thing was? The thing about ephedra was, I forget the year, but ephedrine only accounted for about 5% of all supplement sales in the U.S. and was attributed to almost 95% of the deaths related to supplements.
Well, I'm still here.
Well, you're still here.
I'm still sitting here.
My numbers may be off a little bit on that, but I mean, unfortunately, I'm not the best person to say, well, you should be taking this, you should be taking that.
What about good vitamins, organic stuff like that? How do you feel about vitamins?
Well, I mean, I take a multivitamin because I think I have a chlorophyll allergy. I mean, I hate vegetables, anything green. So I know I have this hole in my diet. So just like I use exercise to supplement my activity, I use a multivitamin as a supplement because my diet is not as balanced as it should be. So, take an honest look at your hydration and your nutrition and what you're eating, and take that information, if you really don't know what to do with it, to a nutritionist, to a sports nutritionist, and find out what to do with it. But really, you're just going to kind of plug those holes, and you're going to plug those holes to the level that you need to be at. So if you're just a common dude, common woman, just working out, just wants to look better, you're going to be at that level. If you're a competing athlete, you're going to be here. And you're going to need someone that knows, well, you can't take that because you'll get tested for it. You can't take that. I don't know those things.
And I think overall, what I've learned over the years is just to be realistic. I mean, when I left Alaska, I was supplementing. I was, like I told you, running 5 miles. Listen, I can't do that right now. The schedule doesn't allow for it. I don't really care. I don't give to be honest with you, I don't give a rat's ass if I can bench 350 pounds anymore.
Yep.
I don't care.
I haven't done a flat bench press in probably 8 years. I haven't done a weighted back squat in probably the same amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I tell people all the time,
you're goddamn strong for not doing any of that stuff. Let me tell you that.
But I don't need it. I mean, I just don't need it because the way I look at it, you need to be active through your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
But your activity should change. So one of the things as you get older, you don't rebound when you're 39 as well as you when you're 19. You just don't. Yeah. It's just the way it is. If you do, you're a freak.
Mm-hmm.
The Tom Brady's and the Aaron Yagers of the world, they're aberrations.
Yeah,
they're different.
Sure.
I mean, Yager he was the oldest player to have a hat trick. 2 years ago?
Oh yeah,
just incredible.
And he's still he's still going.
He's still going at a high level.
At a high level.
Those are aberrations. We all need to change as we grow older. So again, exercise is a pharmaceutical, right? You may have been able to run 20 miles a week when you were 19. You can't do it when you're 45. That's fine.
Sure.
But just be aware of it and change it to something else.
Everybody knows the Herschel Walker story. If you don't, the guy never lifted a weight in his life. 2,000 sit-ups, 2,000 push-ups, and 200 laps in the pool a day.
Mm-hmm.
And he lasted, 15, 16 years in the NFL without injury. I think he had one injury.
And that's just what worked for him. Yep, absolutely.
And then he came back and he fought MMA in his late 40s.
Did he really?
He really did. Yeah, for Strikeforce.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he fought for Strikeforce.
I mean, he was one of my heroes, throughout the NFL.
You should go back and watch that fight, man. That Strikeforce fight is good, too.
That's awesome.
He's an physical specimen.
Yeah.
He's a beast. He really is a beast.
And 40-something years old in the cage, dude.
I mean, I think when you look at guys like that, and maybe he's a freak, too. Right? Maybe he's a freak too. But I think you learn a lot from a guy like that who did the movements, found his own path, made his body, took into account what was right for his body. Yep. And he was one of the healthiest guys that has ever gone through the NFL. And just a physical specimen without ever touching a weight. Yep. And I'm not saying not to weightlift because I agree with you. If that's what you know, like me, I used to love it. I used to love arm day. I used to love chest day, right?
It's better than zero.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because we like to follow what the professional athletes do, but like most people, we like affirmation and we don't want information. So we just want to follow what they do when it suits our model.
Sure.
So we're like, oh, okay, this fighter does that, and this fighter does this fighter does that. I saw an interesting thing. I believe it was on CBC a long time ago. They were talking to Paul Correa. He used to be a star winger for the Anaheim Mighty Ducks and Colorado Avalanche. And they were talking about some of his off-season stuff. What do you do? And, what would you expect a pro athlete to be doing in the off-season? Lifting, skating, working on his skills. He picked up juggling. one off season. Now you think juggling's not physically demanding like playing hockey is, right? It's not legs, it's not arms. I'm sure he was still working out. Like
Sure.
he's a pro athlete, but he picked up that because it got him off the ice, let him heal from that repetition, but worked on his hand-eye coordination. And you know, if I were to tell people who play, ball and bat sports, soccer, football, anything where you need hand-eye coordination, tell them to go juggle, they'd be like,
Crazy.
but that's not hard.
Yeah.
Well, try juggling 3 or 4 balls. It's hard.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's something that's going to build that base to make all of your other skill set better.
Yeah, and I can't remember any specific names, but I do remember receivers from the NFL taking ballet and dance on the off season, which they would attribute to their success in the NFL way more than squatting with weights pressed against the back of their neck. So yeah, really an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I got one more before we hit the Fandoozy questions and
Okay.
plug Fandoozy and plug my kids club.
Plug away.
And plug the golf balls.
Plug it.
Because I actually hit.
Maybe plug my business once or twice too.
That's
Again.
your job. I'm
come
a
on.
shameless plugger of myself
You
and
certainly
my
are.
my corporation. You need to get on your game, Kroll. You've been hanging out with me long enough. We've been doing commercials. You should check out our commercials on Facebook, by the way. They're pretty killer. We're like used car salesmen. It's really,
Love
really
it.
good.
Nice.
That's KrolPhysicalTherapy.com.
There you go.
Kroll Physical Therapy, KROL. That's one L.
That's one.
Physicaltherapy.com, DRKROLPT@gmail.com.
Man, I should hire you.
Yeah, dude, he's got a good advertisement. Not as good as Herbert, but it's pretty good.
Thanks.
Herbert's really good. We should hire
It was
him.
really good, yeah.
I got one more question. He's got money for you, man.
Oh,
He got money.
hey, I'm never going to refuse that, right? I'll tell you what, we'll put it right back into my first session.
There you go.
All right. So I heard on Colin today. I was listening to Colin, and
And Nick Wright was hosting instead.
maybe it was yesterday.
Yeah, had to be yesterday. He wasn't there today.
Yeah, he was talking about the football players, and he gave an interesting stat. He said the football players for the last 2 years have been getting younger and younger and younger, even across offensive line, every position but quarterback, just because the length of time in the league has gone down, and most guys are out of the league now by 26, 27 years old. Do you think your PT model can help with these professional athletes at this high level, or is it just the pure athleticism and these guys hitting each other, giving career-ending injuries to each other? And what is a career-ending injury?
So they already use the model. This model is not mine. I adopted this model from Functional Movement Systems, who uses the FMS at the NBA level, the NFL level, the NHL, the NCAA level. It's used predominantly. So if you come to see me, you're going to get put through, if you're healthy, the same screen that LeBron James goes through, that Ohio State athletes go through. You're going to get put through the same screen. So they're already on the ball. And the reason they're on the ball is because these are multi-million-dollar human resource assets. So they want to know, hey, if I'm going to draft you, are you prone to injury?
Yeah.
That's a problem. That's why they go through the combine. That's why they go through all that stuff. Not because it says, oh, this person's going to be the best quarterback in the league or the best running back. It's, can we train this person, or are they going to be hurt all the time from non-contact injuries? Are they going to cut and then go down for no good reason? So, yeah, the model's already being used. Absolutely. So,
Cool.
yeah, does it help? Yeah, it does. Or they wouldn't do it if it didn't.
Right.
Neither would you.
Neither would I, right. If I didn't believe in it, I wouldn't do it.
All right, we're gonna probably let's run down how close I am to getting back to the cage, because I'd be interested to hear this as well. I'm about 30 pounds over, so I got a lot of weight cutting to do to get back down to 45. I'm about 175 today.
Seriously?
Yeah, well, actually, I trained, so I'm like 169 3/4 when I got off the scale.
And you
before I headed up
you
here.
have 29 to lose then?
Yeah, I gotta get down to 146, but I only need to make it for like 10 seconds.
Where are you gonna go? Where's that 29 pounds gonna go?
Dude, easy.
You don't know.
You don't know.
Dude spitting a Dr. Pepper can the entire way down to Wildwood, New Jersey.
Unbelievable.
So he held this full can. By the time we pulled him out, he's like, "That's a pound." Threw it out.
That is
True story. We drove from Buffalo to Wildwood, New Jersey for a North American Grappling Association
Holy
tournament,
crap.
and he spit it. And it was like old spittoon days, and he was just going to town, and there was a pound right there. You know what?
Remember that time at Bally's? I had the sauna suit and I was running, and there was just that pool of sweat all the way across the track, and I had regular shoes on, like
The
3
shoes
pairs
were
of
soaking
socks,
wet.
and I walk in over the carpet, and you just see my squishy footprints all the way up to where I'm working out with Dr. Kroll.
So I would say, from a skill side of things, from a weight cutting side of things, Again, that's more your department than mine. So I can't tell you where you're at on that front. But honestly, your arm, the arm's healing up nicely. We still have a little bit of physiology to respect. We have to respect tissue healing time. If you were to go bang hard right now, you're probably putting yourself at risk just because we have to respect that time. It just happens. It just takes time. So, but I mean, you're doing Turkish get-ups, you're doing bear crawls, you're doing all sorts of things, but you've never held a band in a door, right, and done arm rotations and all that other horse shit that you see in a lot of PT clinics that are unsupervised.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, you're doing great. I mean, we're doing our push-ups, we're doing our pulls, we're addressing all sorts of other problems, we're testing it. I mean,
I may have done some pretty intense jiu-jitsu today. I got donked on my head a couple times. I posted on my hand with all my body weight, and I didn't get bucked off, and there's no damage.
but that's why we practice that in the clinic, because I knew that's what you're going to do. And it's okay. I mean, it's about knowing your patient. I know you're going to tax this stuff. So, I mean, if I can show you in a safe environment that, hey, you're not ready for this, you're probably not going to go do it. Or at least the percentage likelihood is going to go down that you're not going to do, because you're going to be like, man, you know what? I do have a fight I want to do, and I can't blow this out again. So, but if I show you in the clinic that, hey, we can do this, start amping it up a little bit. Now you have a little more safe passage. Now the road's a little more illuminated for you. So,
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, you're still a little bit of time. We still have to respect the tissue healing process, but it's getting there, man. I mean, and you're going to be stronger and better going into it than you were prior to getting hurt. So honestly, getting hurt might have been a blessing in disguise for you.
All right, so you guys heard it here. If I kick ass, it's all because Dr. Kroll. If I get my ass kicked, it's because I was eating donuts with Chris.
There you go. We'll blame it on Chris.
That's right. Blame it on this guy. Can you do something about his ears? Because I don't know if anybody knows Caveman, but those actually aren't headphones that are on his head. Those are actually his ears. The headphones won't fit.
It's a badge of honor for him, so I'm not going to touch them.
I got one more question. That's Kaufman's going to love this one.
Yeah.
You've known me since I was, 12 maybe, that we were like pretty decent friends, 12, 13. Have you noticed any significant cognitive changes in me since we were hanging out back then from repeated concussions? I'm sure I've had more than I can count.
No, I don't think so. And, not everybody has them. We're still so in our infancy in understanding concussions and neurologic issues that, we can't possibly say we have it well defined at this point. So, I mean, I haven't noticed anything. Doesn't mean nothing's there.
No, you heard it from the doctor. I'm good.
Yeah, you're good, man.
But I haven't noticed any changes. Not like your behavior's erratic. But again, I don't live with you. So
we're not gonna listen to my wife about that. My erratic behavior.
I don't know if you come home and just Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type thing and go berserk. I don't know, but
punch out the windows.
As far as I've seen you seem perfectly reasonable to me. So
if you start crazy and erratic, it's really hard to get in. Right? I mean,
but I'm gonna let you plug Fandoozy now.
That's very cool.
Get to the Fandoozy questions.
Yeah. Everybody listening to this podcast needs to visit Fandoozy.com. We've spent some time. We are in beta testing mode right now. We are looking for everybody's opinion. And that's the beautiful thing about Fandoozy is that your opinions, your knowledgeable and creative opinions are scored and you're rewarded for that. You can walk out of a discussion as a winner, unlike any other platform. If there's 200,000 people in a discussion or debate, you might be the winner of that. So it could be anything from who's the greatest quarterback to ever play the game, or should Caveman have jumped on that goalie's head? We don't know, but Fandoozy can score those conversations and those discussions. You'll come out a winner. There's blogging. There's soon to be podcasts on there, which you'll be able to listen to this podcast on there. As a matter of fact, there's going to be video sharing. There's pretty much everything you can possibly imagine in the realm of sports, entertainment, and lifestyle on Fandoozy.com. Come help us out. Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you.
I got a couple questions about Fandoozy.com. Chris, who's the number one person on Fandoozy.com right now?
I believe his name is Jeffrey Dens. Do you know?
I'm pretty sure it says Caveman on.
Oh, is that what it is? Yeah. Caveman? Okay, Jeffrey Dens / Captain Caveman is the number one.
I'm the number one blogger, and I'm the number one overall, and number two in the debate forums.
So we're looking for somebody to take this guy down.
You gotta knock him off the horse.
We gotta knock him off the horse.
Can't do it. He challenged me and knocked him off.
But can I just say one thing about Fandoozy? I went to the beta launch party. It was a great time. Andrew Peters was there and a couple other guys. It was just fantastic. But you're also hosting this podcast, and I think the things you guys are doing here are just awesome. You guys had Kristen talking about a lot of topics other than just, hey, do you like to beat people up? Eric Herbert, the same thing, talking about all sorts of other topics. You have me on. You're going to have a couple other people, which I'm sure are going to be fantastic.
Oh, greatest ever. Greatest country ever.
I hope I can live up to their standards that they've held. So you guys are doing an awesome job. Kristen did great. Eric Herbert did great. I'd love to meet them. They sound like great people. I listened to those podcasts multiple times. So.
Yeah, they were awesome. And I can honestly say I'm a fight fan, but I don't know it. I'm not a fighter. I don't know it like you guys do. It's fun for me to sit here and help produce the show. We've got fantasy football shows. We've got general sports shows. We actually started the Dues Room, which is going to be a Fandoozy Radio. I'm proud to tell you guys and tell everybody listening out there that soon enough, literally within the next maybe 4 to 6 weeks, we will be live streaming Fandoozy Radio. You'll be able to hear this live. You may be able to see it live soon enough, either on Periscope and or YouTube. But for sure, you will be able to listen live to Fandoozy Radio anywhere from 3 to 12 hours a day. That'll include Captain Caveman Show,
for sure,
The Real Men of Fantasy, Rajcast, the Dues Room, and we've got more on the docket. So literally we're getting into the live streaming game. We're going to be talking sports. We're going to be discussing. You can win conversations. Pretty soon we'll have contests. We've got a ton of pros on there. We've got NHL guys, NHL executives, NHL pros. We've got NFL Hall of Famers. We've got MMA pros. We've got fishing pros. We've got bowling pros. So you name it. The whole thing is it's not
got a cooking
sports
pro.
Specific. We got a cooking pro you're right, in Jeff Dockery.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Right?
Why do I know your website better than you? Maybe I spend more time on it.
Gridiron Chef, Jeff Dockery, Doc, as we like to call him. We've got it all. It's lifestyle. It's entertainment. It is all sports. Join us.
Since I'm number one, can I give out a deal?
You can totally give out a deal.
All right, so if we use promo code Caveman, all capital letters, we'll give you 50% off your membership right now. So do it, quick.
That's right. Get on there.
Otherwise, Dr.
Help
Krol's
us out.
going to manipulate your neck like he did to me when I was in 8th grade. Thought I was dead.
But the nice thing, too, is when I gave that seminar talk at UB a couple of weeks ago, we actually talked to one of the clinical coordinators there, and she was actually thinking of taking this podcast and making it sort of mandatory for some of the students to listen to. So hopefully you get more exposure there, too.
That's really cool.
So
that's really cool.
Spreading the word, and I believe very deeply in what I'm doing. I love it. I live it, and it's, I'm glad to get the word out there. And I always pump the other podcast people too because they do a great job.
I got one more thing to say about Fandoozy because a lot of people come up and ask me about this. We're in no way really a gambling website. There's no gambling going on our website.
Not at all.
I think people get confused a little bit with FanDuel.com sometimes, maybe a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We were first. Fuck them.
We were first in scoring conversation. We are the home of competitive conversation.
That's right. And we do have a little bit.
They do fantasy stuff really good.
Because they do fantasy stuff really good. You guys' fantasy football podcast is amazing too. You guys should check it out. I listen to GR1 and it sucks compared to there. It's really good. The Real Men of Fantasy Sports. That's what it's called.
That's it. Yep.
If you guys can check that out and you're into fantasy football, check that out. Even though fantasy football is stupid, you root against your own team. Why do you play that stupid game?
Well, you still have an affiliation with your real team, but you get to be a GM, man. You get to be a GM, and we give you tips on how to win daily tournaments and how to cash and win some money. Hey, listen, I'm up 300% this year. That's not bad, right?
Yeah, that's why Fandoozy's doing well, right? Going right back into Fandoozy to pay the caveman. Right in to pay the caveman. We are keeping the lights on. No, we got big plans. We got a lot of great people involved. I think it's only going up from here. All right. So one of the great things about Fandoozy is we have real name verification. So what that really means is to interact with these pros, you have to use your real name. So it's real easy to see. I interact with all these people all the time, and I can tell whose name is where. I'm scrolling up and down the page right now as I'm speaking to you. And it's really easy to see the questions, who's asking you what. So this is a great thing about Fandoozy, and I use it in all my podcasts. So right now, I think Krol's actually looking at the questions right now.
No, I'm not looking at the question. I'm actually trying to pump up your podcast.
Oh, all right.
Is that okay?
That's okay.
Can we do that?
Shameless plug-in. Plug it away.
Shameless plug,
yeah. I had some Facebook Live going on earlier, too, so you can actually see how ugly the three of us are.
Oh man, I'm not nothing to look at. Believe me.
What I do every podcast is I ask some caveman's questions, and from now on I'm gonna have my all my guests answer these questions, and it's just a pump Fandoozy, and these people actually have real questions. So
Great.
Chris is the one that actually gets to read it because he's pretty freaking radio voice guy. I can turn my screen for you if you need to read.
I appreciate that. Which one are we looking at? I apologize.
Caveman's Corner.
Well, no.
Active
I know
debates.
that.
Go to Active
I
Debates.
understand that.
Caveman's Corner's
Corner
questions.
No, I get that. Which one am I reading?
Anyone you want. You're the boss.
All right.
You get to pick. Make sure you ask for my wife's and my son's because my son's has got an awesome thing in it.
You know what? I'm going to start with, and that's great. I hear that. And we got to switch her over, man. She's a standard account. We got to get her an elite premium membership there.
For sure, especially when she comes in to heckle me because we're going to have the wives and spouses of some fighters in soon.
Yeah, I'm going to start with, I want to start with Greg Morag. And Greg has, I'll tell you, Greg has been an asset to us, just like you, Caveman. Like I said, testing the platform, finding out what works, what doesn't. Greg is on there. He loves it. He's on there on a daily basis. He really gets involved. He was climbing the list, even though he wasn't one of the original. He wasn't on there from the get-go, but he got on, and he's really been an outstanding, benefit for us. Greg, this is a question for Doc, especially with student athletes. Do you agree with the return-to-play protocol and baseline testing for concussions? Are school districts and some trainers too fast to call for a concussion? And do you really think that it's truly looking out for the athlete and or districts covering their behinds?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. So the protocol wouldn't be there if there wasn't a problem. If there wasn't an issue, then they wouldn't even come with the protocol. They would have said, just tough it out and go back in there. So there's an issue. But again, like I said earlier, we're still in our infancy. And I'm not a neurologist on this stuff, but we don't know a lot about concussions. We don't know nearly as much as we wish we did. So these return to play protocols, honestly, most districts are going to err on the side of caution. It's such a litigious society. You don't want to be the one that throws someone in there and then they get a secondary brain injury and they die 3 months later, or they're the ones with the CTE and you're the school that's being looked at, or you're the group that's being looked at. And so there's always CYA in everything we do. Everything. When I treat my patients, there's always a CYA. Why do you think I look at certain things? I test reflexes, I test this, I test that, because I got to make sure the patient's healthy. I got to make sure that they're safe for manipulation.
Sure.
So, yeah, I don't know the return to play protocol frontwards and back by any means, so I can't say that, okay, here's part good, here's a part that's bad. But it is in place for a reason, and it's going to evolve over time.
Sure.
And if it doesn't evolve over time, that's a problem. But it will. And, I would rather, if it's me or a kid or a young girl who's just trying to, play a sport, if they think there's a problem, even if they're not 100% sure, you know what? We're going to go through the concussion protocol. Why not,
Yeah, I think that's the safest way to go. I don't think there's anything wrong with going through a protocol to find out whether or not somebody is really affected by this, because I think the long-term effects, if you keep them in there without at least taking a look, are greater than they are if you just send them back in there. I think we don't know enough yet. Just had a great discussion today with Sabres Hall of Famer Don Luce about concussions and about cranial adjustments and other things that you can do to lessen your chance of getting a concussion in the first place. That's for another time, but I agree with you. I think you got to go through the protocol. Even if you're under the microscope and they're doing it from a political standpoint, it can't hurt somebody to go through it.
Greg,
Right.
+3.
There you go.
There
Thank
you
you,
go.
Greg. We really appreciate the question. Next question comes from Mrs. Caveman. This is a great question. And Mrs. Caveman, thank you for posting this on Fandoozy.com. She wants to know from purely a physiological point of view, and the difference, taking into consideration the difference between male and female athletes, is it fair that someone who has a sex change compete with someone of the new gender?
Well, if you just have a sex change and you're still born and exposed to there's that dimorphism when you are born. You have an XY versus an XX. And I know the Olympics, and I think in the year 2000, they stopped with the SRY gene testing, but even they understand. Look, there's just a physiological difference to being exposed to androgens versus estrogens when you're developing. So if you just have a sex change, but you still have the same physiology as a male, I mean, that's going to be tough for a female to deal with. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's not a knock on females. It's not anything. It's just, there's the reality that, men are stronger than females on the whole. They're stronger, they're faster, they're bigger, they move better. It's just the way it is. We have very similar responses to exercise. We have very similar responses to strength training and cardiovascular training. Those responses are virtually identical. But yeah, there's a difference between the two. And if you just have a sex change and you really are physiologically born as a male, boy, that's going to be tough. So
this leads to a great question for Fandoozy and on the platform for true discussion, right? I mean, for really a legitimate discussion is should athletes who have had gender changing surgery or are in that category, should they be able to compete in their new gender category or whichever gender category they so choose to be in? It's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I do, but I do know that there has to be some talk about it, especially when you're looking at, a male, what we consider to be a male moving in, for gender change into a female realm or into a female sport makes a huge difference. And
this is Phelan Fox. I have Phelan Fox's picture called up right now on our internet, and this is a transgender male that went into female that fights in the female division of MMA. And there's a lot of girls that won't fight her because of this. And if you take a look at her, she's pretty masculine looking, although that doesn't really mean anything. But she's definitely
but it does poses
a
an enormous concern and an enormous question, I think. And I don't know if we know how to answer that because, you go through all the training as a doctor. There are physiological differences. So, are they on the same playing field? I don't know.
Well, why do we separate them in the first place, right? There's a reason that, we don't, girls don't hit off the same tees as guys in golf.
Sure.
And there's just, you can take the mile per hour serves in tennis. I mean, anything across the board. I mean, how many women can slam dunk a basketball versus men? There's huge differences across the board, which are undisputed.
Yeah.
And, I think when you get into if it's golf, you're not hitting the other person.
Yeah.
But when you're talking MMA, you're talking basketball, where it is a sport of physicality, that could be, I can understand why someone wouldn't want to fight what they would consider a male fighter. It's just,
I would fight
not safe.
Woman that got a wiener.
from anthropometrics would say that you can't, that like you said, male, there's going to be
unless it's cyborg,
a substantially greater number of males that can dunk a basketball than females, correct? And there's probably a substantially greater number of males that can bench 400 pounds as opposed to their female counterparts.
Right.
So I agree. It's a really good discussion. And Mrs. Caveman, that's a great question.
Awesome. Speaking of golf, I just want to plug Encore golf balls. I actually got an Encore golf ball, and I hit it, and it actually went off the tee, and it went so far I lost it. So I don't have an Encore golf ball anymore, but I only stole one from Chris at the beta launch. So I'm going to go pick up some more. So check them out. They actually fly pretty good. Most of the time I get worm burners. They don't even pick up anywhere.
They do. They revolutionize the golf ball. They're the first company to make a hollow metal core. It flies over 20% straighter than all your other golf balls. So I think their tagline is, "You just became a better golfer with Encore."
Probably shouldn't tee off with the one wood at Bobolink.
Well, it's funny.
14, huh?
I played with Craig Muni a couple weeks ago, and he tweeted out, "Yeah, man. Normally I find a bunch of balls in the woods, but I'm not hitting these Encore. I haven't found one ball today because my Encore golf ball is going straight."
Oh, all right. Me and Craig Muni were pumping Encore. Give me a hat, something, T-shirt.
All right.
I love you guys.
Done.
All right.
Done.
Next question.
Next question.
All right. Caveman Jr. This is a kid's ask. Hey, Uncle Cupcake.
There it is.
That's gotta be an inside thing. I don't know.
What about Aunt Frosting? There's Uncle Cupcake and Aunt Frosting.
Yeah. Hey, Uncle Cupcake. From Caveman Jr. Hey, Uncle Cupcake. What are some of the best ways to warm up for soccer?
Well, honestly, it's going to be warming up for any sport, not just specific to soccer. I mean, you want to get moving, you want to get rock and rolling, you want to get stretched out a little bit. Nothing too crazy. But yeah, if you want to do skill type warm-ups, then you're going to go defer more to your soccer coaches for that. But honestly, you just want to get the blood flowing, the heart rate up, and get yourself moving around. One of the things I always recommend for people in any sport, and Jeff and I have done this or in the past, and I'm sure your other coaches do it too, you want to check out your playing field. So if you're warming up for a soccer game, it's a pretty good idea to run around and see, okay, are there pits here? Is the grass slippery? Are there any other problems? I mean, you go out into the cage and you see, okay,
I go over every inch of the cage, every inch of the fence, everything.
Yeah, am I going to slip on this decal? What problems do we have? How do I move? Is this going to influence what I can do? So that's from more of an athletic training side of things, from injury reduction. But yeah, you want to know where the pits are in the field and bring them up to your coaches. But that's a huge part of warm-up. You should really have a lot of your kids running around the entire field and just getting a feel for it. But that would be, I'd probably say, my little sidebar thing of it. But honestly, just get moving.
I got one question speaking of that, and I must get a lot of concussions because I meant to ask you this right in the beginning. I've read a lot of stuff that stretching before you work out is not that good, like static stretching. What's your opinion on stretching, and what should we be doing to stretch before we train?
If you, and this literature changes all the time. There's a lot of different types of stretching: static stretching, dynamic stretching, long holds, short holds, ballistics, whatever. I tend to find if you take a tissue and you hold it in a long length for a long period of time, it doesn't respond so well in the short term. So would I recommend a 90-second hold right before the bell rings? Probably not. But if you do that long hold an hour before your fight, you're probably going to be fine by then because you're going to warm up through it. So yeah, honestly, it's very personalized. Some people do really well with ballistic stretching. Other people feel great with static stretching, or static stretching in some areas, long type of hold. So what I mean by static is you're not bouncing into it, you're just holding it there. Okay, versus a ballistic where you're sort of bouncing your hands down towards your toes. They're different, and you may find that in one area, like, okay, I need to really use a static stretch here, but something more ballistic here. So I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. And it seems like such a cop-out answer, but that really is the truth, and it really leads to how different we all are. All three of us in this room would respond very differently to any type of stretching program, any type of exercise program. So honestly, you have to find what works, but what's best for you. And expose yourself to a lot of different things, a lot of different trainers, a lot of different people who do things differently. And you may find, boy, I really like the way Dr. Kroll stretches me, or I don't really do so well with that. Maybe I should go with something else.
I found I like to take you to my fights now. We just started doing this recently, and you stretch me out and you crack me up about an hour, maybe even a little bit longer before I go out. And I find that's worked out the best for me so far. I hate stretching before I fight, or I'm already tense and tight, and my muscles are tight. And you talk about this all the time. Are you stretching, or are you fighting your muscle? And like it's a lot easier, like an hour or two before you go out into combat, just to be like loose and get stretched out. And then like I want everything tight before I go out and fight. I don't know if that's pretty sport specific or me personally, but that's my view on it.
Well, you want to be able to put yourself in a position to perform well. I mean, whether it's in the cage or whether it's on the ice or whether it's on the field, you see some people, they are just bouncing off the walls on the sideline, and that's what they do, and it helps them out a lot. You get other people that look like they could fall asleep at any point in time. I mean, if you look at fighters, is there a difference between the way Conor McGregor looks versus Gegard Mousasi? Sure, they look very different.
Fedor's brother?
Fedor's brother looked like he was just, woke up. But he was fine. He has that great fight against James Thompson where James Thompson is bouncing off the walls. He looks like he's a rubber band about to snap.
He's this giant guy. We have our friend. We bet on this fight. This is this huge giant guy, James Thompson. He's like a huge jacked up, roided up football player. They're fighting in Pride, and he's fighting
Fedor's brother
Alexander Alemenko, and is a Russian guy. He's fat. He's got no muscles. His hair's all tousled up. And Darren's like, oh, that guy's going to kill him, like the WWE thing. He's like, oh, yeah? Let's bet on it, And, dude,
we both called Fedor's brother, and we're like, yeah, he's going to smash him. And the guy ran across the cage, pushed him down, and then they just got destroyed after that. Yeah. But it was just, it's everybody's different. And had James Thompson come across and hit him with a flying knee, oh my God, that's the way you should be doing it. Everybody's different, and really it is a very personal thing. You find out what works for you. There's some people that before competition they get sick. There's some people, I think I even heard you talking about this with the one fighter when you talk about Eric Herbert, he got really sick or something before the fight. Other people, they don't want anyone to talk to them. Just leave them in their zone, leave them alone. Other people, they just want to be around their family, their kids. Everybody's different. And the physiology is the same way. You may find that, okay, the way I stretch you and manipulate you works awesome an hour and 20 before the fight. But if I did it maybe 30 minutes before the fight, you probably wouldn't like it. I mean, who knows? You may like it more. We don't know.
KrolPhysicalTherapy.com. That's Krol with one L. Krol. Physicaltherapy.com. DrKrolPT@gmail.com. To get a hold of Dr. Krol, go see him.
Yeah, go see him. Punch him in the face once for me.
Yeah, and again, it's not even about you have to be hurt, you have to be a physical therapy patient. It's you're a human being, you move or you don't, and that leads to a whole bunch of problems. So, yeah, it can help anybody out, and that's, my goal is to make people better, make them move better, make them active, and just get them out there.
Yeah, you never know, Doc. You might see me shortly, so I've got your information.
Great.
He's writing it down with crib and notes.
I did. I did. Well, thank you for. I just want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure. Great conversation. Caveman, I'm going to let you wrap it up.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Kroll. Thank you for coming in. We'll see you tomorrow night, and then I'll see you again Saturday. I see Dr. Kroll like twice a week now, getting ready to fight. And thank you once again for coming, man.
No problem. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you very much.
Thanks for not using too many big words. I appreciate it.
Thanks for calling me out when I did.
No problem. That's what I do. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Doozer Nation in the house.